Hey everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Lazy Discussion. So this will be the full review of The Upside. So if you haven't seen The Upside and you really want to go see it, go ahead and leave this video and click in the link into my description, and right there will be my initial review. You can go ahead and watch my initial review of The Upside, so this way you can avoid spoilers, because right here we're going to get to deep spoilers. So, like I said, we're going to review The Upside, but before we do that, there's a few housekeeping items that we need to deal with. First of all, with these episodes, the full discussions, I want to release them on Sundays, so today's a little bit of a funky day. I really want to first let people see my initial review and go ahead, if they have seen the movie, leave their comments and their questions, whatever they want to say about the movie, because it's really open for anything. Like I said, you can leave things that you liked about the movie, or things you didn't like, talk about your favorite scenes, talk about scenes you hated, or if you have any issues with what maybe I might have said, or any more questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section, so that way I'll pull from them after I'm done giving my part of the review. I'll go ahead and read a few of those comments and questions, and that way we can discuss them right here on the full discussion, because that's the whole point of the full discussion, is to just talk about movies and just have a good time with it. We're reviewing The Upside, starring Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart. So The Upside is about Bryan Cranston's character named Philip, and he is a wealthy businessman, and he actually became a successful writer in writing ways to create successful businesses. So it's kind of funny how he became a successful writer, because he's a successful businessman. Two and two together, boom, synergy. Anyways, he, of course, makes all this money, and one of his favorite things to do is to go parasailing. And, well, he got in an accident going parasailing, and now that's what left him disabled. So he can't move anything from his neck down. He's refined to a wheelchair, so the only thing he can move is his neck and his head. And the way he guides his wheelchair is with this neat little joystick in front of his face. That's actually a new one. I was wondering how they would do it, in terms of how would they get him to move around in the wheelchair. I believe I've seen things on like TV shows or other movies where people blow into the little straw and then go ahead and just like let the air, I guess, propel the car forward. But it always made me think, how would it turn and whatnot? Well, in this movie, he has like this cool little joystick that's in front of him, and he basically just uses his chin to push himself around. So it's like a little analog stick. He pushes up to go forward, back to go back. I guess like he could probably push into it and then like rotate it, so that way he can rotate 360. So yeah, so he's able to move his head and he's able to move his wheelchair like that. So in my initial review, I mentioned that, Bryan Cranston is really good in this one, and he is really good in this film. He has this one emotional scene with Kevin Hart's character, Dell. So Philip has a rule. He says he doesn't want anybody to resuscitate him. He has like a do not resuscitate rule. If he ever comes to a point that he needs like major tools to survive, or even if like, he basically is giving them the right to let him die. And there's at one point where Kevin Hart is in his room and then Bryan Cranston is in his room. We see Bryan Cranston's character laying there on the bed, and he starts to choke. He's starting to choke, and he can't help himself. He needs somebody to go over there and help them, and he thinks this is the moment. This is it. This is how he's gonna die. And like Kevin Hart gets the sense that something's going on. You see him. He's not really sleeping in his room. And then it cuts back to Bryan Cranston, and like he's just staring at the ceiling, I guess, and he's watching this little piece of art that maybe I think his wife bought him. And he's just like staring at that because it reminds him of the accident and everything. And he's staring at that, and you could see like as music gets a little bit louder and it gets closer to his face, it looks like he's about to die, and then Kevin Hart pop out in the screen, and then he starts to help him. And that's when Kevin Hart understands that he really wants to die, and that he's really sad about something. And so they go out to the balcony to have this like kind of heart discussion, and you just see Bryan Cranston sitting there, and he has to like well up these tears, because he's talking about the fact of like about his wife and how it makes him really sad. And just to see that he can't use his body to convey this, he just has to sit there and basically force himself to cry. And the way he does it, you could just see it, and it's incredibly beautiful. You just like how hard he worked to make that scene come true, and it's evident in that one part that Bryan Cranston really puts a lot of emotion into that scene. So I really like that about Bryan Cranston. You know, he did a really good job in this movie. Now let's move on to Kevin Hart. So I said I really liked Kevin Hart in this one, and I also kind of hate him a little bit. So let's get into the like. You know, I thought he did really good in this one. He finally did not, you know, run around like, no, he wasn't ready. He just like in every movie he does, he always tends to like talk super fast. You don't know who I am. Yeah. And it just, he does it in every movie he's in, and it was funny the first time, and like, but it started to kind of get on my nerves, and this is something that I was really hoping not to see in this movie. I really didn't want to see him just like to start being like Kevin Hart, where he's on stage and he's talking about his height and whatnot. I really wanted to see a grounded Kevin Hart, and in this one we do. He really, oh man, he just really holds it back, and he just relaxes for a moment, and he's a little, I feel like he's a little bit more charismatic in this one and whatnot. He's just like so much calmer, and I really liked it. This is what I was hoping for when I was gonna watch him, was the fact that he would really tone it down and just let the jokes flow from him naturally, and you know, and he does. He's just so much more funnier this way. He just like lets the punchlines land each time he says his jokes, instead of like moving super fast between jokes and saying like 5 or 6 jokes in like 2 seconds. So he did a really good job in this one, and that also kind of factors a little bit into why I kind of disliked him in this movie, is the fact that he there are times in the movie you could sense like maybe, I don't know if it was the director that told him, or even Bryan Cranston, maybe he started off at first being like super energetic like he normally was gonna be. I don't know if it was Bryan Cranston like just kind of slapped him and told him, hey, listen here, man, relax, have fun with it. Or if, you know, the director was telling him like, you know, I want you to really calm it down, because there's some moments in this movie, I swear, like it seems like he's delivering the line with such I don't want to say sass, but he's delivering it with like, is this what you wanted? Yeah. Yeah. Because he kind of talks like this. He's just like, yeah. You know, nah, man. I don't want any of this action. No. Don't talk to me that way, man. And there's just moments where it really drops, and like, you could tell he's just saying the lines at that point. And I really liked the story. It could have had potential had the writing just been a little bit better. So, because I liked that we had Bryan Cranston's character, and he's like this down and broke author. He has to depend on all these people to come and help him, and he doesn't want that. And we have Kevin Hart's character, who is this ex-con. He just got out of prison, and now he's looking for work because his parole officer needs him to find a job. And he is this also broken character. You know, he has his ex-wife and his son, who of course don't like him because he is just devoted himself to a life of crime, got himself thrown in jail, hasn't been able to support them in any way. You know, he bought them an apartment, but the apartment is a super rundown apartment. It's nasty, and they don't like to live there. So they had the basis for something good here. Well, I'm gonna have to get into my issues with the film. So the real big problem with this movie is that it drags on, because there's so many little plot points happening everywhere that it's hard to keep up. Like, one of the plot points that they brought up and never talk about again is with Kevin Hart's character. He's trying to connect with his son, but of course they don't see eye to eye in some things. Of course, he just sees his dad as this criminal, and he always makes promises he can't keep, all that, you know, usual stuff that you find in these types of movies. And there's this one point where Kevin Hart is driving down the street just because he wants to keep an eye on his son, make sure he's fine, because they do live in a dangerous area. And then it's one of Kevin Hart's old friends that I guess was a part of his crew when they used to do their jobs and whatnot. And of course, when the son sees Kevin Hart's friend, they shake hands and they say hi, and it looks like they're having a nice little conversation, and then the son walks off. And that makes Kevin Hart's character scared, because he's worried that his son's going down the same path as him. And so he, of course, parks the car, and confronts the guy and tells him, it's like, hey, you know, I don't want you, what are you talking to my son for? And he's just like, oh, I'm just shaking his hand, man, I can't talk to him. And then, of course, it plays off this idea that, you know, Kevin Hart's just worried that he's trying to recruit his son to his gang or whatever it may be that they are. And he's just kind of brushes it off after that. He doesn't go it doesn't go anywhere. He, of course, is like concerned with the fact that he's driving one of his boss's cars, because he is driving one of Bryan Cranston's like really nice cars. And he parks it on the street right there. And then, of course, as he's talking to this guy, he sees kids taking pictures of the car and like sitting on the car, taking selfies. And of course, then he goes over there and stops him. And that's it. That's the end of that. Like, they never talk about that ever again in the movie. All right, let's talk about the ending of this film, because it ends in a really weird way. So, a little bit of background, because I forgot to talk about Nicole Kidman's character. So, she is his right-hand lady. She helps him out with everything. She deals with his scheduling, hires all of his help. I believe she's also running his company, since he's not able to do so. And so you can see that they have this real good relationship built with each other. And so when the movie ends, Bryan Cranston had just fired Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart had convinced him to go on a date with this lady that he had been talking to for some time. And he at first, Bryan Cranston didn't want to do it because he was afraid that the lady would not accept him the way he is. So he goes on the date, and of course it doesn't end the way he wanted it to, so he fires Kevin Hart, and he goes into a deep depression after that, and he starts firing everybody. He fires his cook, his maids, and then eventually Nicole Kidman ends up leaving him because she couldn't see him like that anymore. And of course, they go to Kevin Hart to try to get him to get back into his old ways, just to be himself again. And he goes there and he takes him on this trip to go parasailing because he hasn't done it in a long time. And they have this really nice moment there. And they go back to the hotel that they're staying at. And Kevin Hart's like, you know, I'm gonna take off for a second. And then all of a sudden, a lady comes up behind Bryan Cranston, grabs his shoulder, and he turns around. And I thought I was gonna see the lady that he didn't have a good date with, and it turns out it's actually Nicole Kidman, and she comes in and sits down next to him. I guess they haven't seen each other in a while, and they just have like this really silent, quiet moment as they share each other's company, and they're just both crying and enjoying the moment because they knew that they were missing each other. But I guess it's implied that they're in love or something, I guess. I don't know if that's what it was. That's the way it was supposed to end, because Kevin Hart's just walking away from the hotel, looking through the glass windows and seeing them talk to each other as if, like, you know, he's like, I did my job, and he leaves, goes back home to his wife and kid, and the movie ends there. There's no I mean, it gets weird because it's never mentioned that he actually loves Nicole Kidman. I guess there was one moment where Kevin Hart thought he overheard them talking on, because they have like almost like a baby monitor for Bryan Cranston, so that way they can listen to him when he's sleeping and make sure there's nothing going on. So he thought he overheard a conversation between the two of them about them maybe sharing like romantic words with each other, but it turns out that's just Bryan Cranston dictating all of the words that he would write in his letters to this lady that he was talking to, because this lady, they were pen pals, and they were sharing, like, they would send each other letters or poetry. So since he can't write it, he would always have Nicole Kidman write it for him. So I guess there was a connection that they built up between that, but the movie never talks about that. It never gives any hints that she's in love with him or he's in love with her. That little mistake moment, it's not even played off like, oh no, we're not in love. Like, oh, it's really just brushed off, because as soon as Kevin Hart finds out that the letters are for some other lady, and that Nicole Kidman is just writing them for him, it's dropped right there, and they're like, okay, but it's never implied again that Nicole Kidman is in love with Bryan Cranston's character. But that's apparently how the movie ends, I guess. It's just it never goes anywhere. They have this moment, Kevin Hart leaves, goes home, and it ends. That's it. It left me super confused with what was going on. I'm assuming how it was written first. Maybe they were going to have a love story between Nicole Kidman and Bryan Cranston, but they wrote it out or something. I don't know, but But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about in this review. Again, this movie had a lot of potential. These guys, Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, had this amazing chemistry. Nicole Kidman also did an amazing job in this movie. Everybody did an amazing job in the acting. There was just a lot of plot points that didn't need to be there. I just shared one with you. There were a few other ones, but they were super minor that I didn't feel like I really needed to talk about them. And then, of course, the ending with Nicole Kidman, I think, implied that they were in love or something. It doesn't make any sense, and it just really brought down the movie for me. But tell me what you guys thought about the movie. I'm glad you guys were able to join me for the first lazy discussion. I want to continue doing this, so like I said, I want to try to release my initial review at the beginning of the day on Sunday, and then hopefully get this one out at the end of Sunday, or Monday at the latest, just depending on how long it takes me to edit this one, because this one takes me a little bit longer, just because I get into deeper detail with the actual review. But yeah, like I said, leave your comments in here and let me know what you guys thought about the movie, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope you guys have an amazing weekend.